500 plus registered participants, and there are more being added through Facebook, which is very, very motivating for us for this seminar today. So it's an immense pleasure to, on behalf of NTNU Alumni and a Green Hydrogen Lab with KU, to organize this webinar on hydropower to hydrogen in Nepal and the opportunities, challenges, and way forward. So as you know, I'll briefly introduce myself. I'm Pratik Mansingh Pradhan. So I'm also one of the graduate from NTNU and currently an executive member at NTNU Alumni. And I'm the vice president at Bhutal Power Company and looking after the projects, and also currently looking after the larger projects of 600 plus megawatt in Barshangi Valley. So just to frame today's seminar, I think hydropower development in Nepal. I think while we talk with it, though it's been over 100 years when we had the first installation, definitely it was with the cooperation from Norway. We had the major starting of the development of the project building since 1960s. And BPC, Bhutal Power Company, is one of that. And we have to name Mr. Odd Hofton, who was a Norwegian, and the relation with Norway started from person to person, rather than even before we had the diplomatic establishment. So with this vision, we have started developing hydropower from small 1 megawatt, 5 megawatt, 10 megawatt, 60 megawatt Khimti. So it went on to the point where in 1990s, when the economic liberalization came and privatization has started, we had hydropower, private sector hydropower coming into Nepal building the project. And now we are quite mature in terms of building it. Now we have come to a place where we need to, whatever electricity generated from hydropower, we need to have a market for that. And today's topic is very, very pertinent from that perspective, as we have speakers, international speakers having experience in different fields on this and trying to use this high energy from hydropower in energy intensive industries. So with that, I think now I'd like to have some house rules for this webinar. So basically we have key 7 speakers, both from national and international area, and especially both from academia from Nepal and Norway, as well as we have industries, both from government sector speaker and as well as private sector representing IPAN. So house rule, the key speakers will get about 12 minutes, though we have allotted 15 minutes because of the technical presentation, and this is being done over the Zoom, so we'd like to allocate a few minutes. So we'll have 12 minutes for each speaker, and then there will be at 10 minutes, there will be an alert for each speaker, by which time you'll have 2 additional minutes to complete to wrap up your presentation or address. And whoever the participants have some questions, they can put in the chat box. We might not have a time frame for the oral, taking up the oral question answer. So we'll definitely have a chat box where you can address your question to a particular presenter. And then we'll, throughout the discussion phase, we'll try to take up some of the questions. If there are significant questions, we'll just, I think, we'll compile those, answers, and we'll send it to you. So with that note, and since we have participants from both Asia, Korea, China, Norway, and internationally, so I think I think we'll have English language as the medium for this presentation today. So with alumni at Kathmandu. Note, I'd like to now pass on to our opening remark to our chairman of this NTNU alumni, Mr. Narayan Rizal. So Narayan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Pratik sir. Good afternoon and namaste. On behalf of NTNU Alumni Nepal, I would like to welcome you all to our today's webinar on hydropower to hydrogen in Nepal, opportunities, challenges, and way forward. We have participants from Norway, China, Korea, other European countries. I know definitely from Nepal. We have professors from NTNU, Kathmandu University, uh, officials from NEA Engineering Company, IPAN. We have also officials from Kathmandu University, NTNU, and representatives from Norwegian Embassy in Kathmandu. Since its formal inauguration in May 2019, we have been organizing different talk programs, seminars, workshops, and lately webinars as such on contemporary and pertinent issues. This is the second episode of talk series under the theme NTNU Energy. It is our pleasure to have eminent personalities of the energy sector, both from Norway and Nepal, ranging from academia to the industry. As you all know, that Nepal has a huge potential for hydropower development. There has been a significant growth in the hydroelectricity production in Nepal since a couple of years, resulting to the excess energy during the wet season. This is due to the priority given by government of Nepal in energy sector. So using this excess energy during the wet season in the form of green hydrogen energy could be one of the opportunities that we have as the potential alternative source of energy. However, we have a very little or almost no infrastructural setup uh, to proceed towards green hydrogen, which can be considered as the challenge. But as we have been collaborating with Norway since a long time back, in for hydropower development, there is also possibility for collaboration in green hydrogen energy research and development in Nepal, in which Green Hydrogen Lab under Kathmandu University has already started working on with the support from NTNU. Thus, I believe the participants of today's webinar will get take-home message from the webinar, and the meaningful discussions held will add value to the discourse in the alternative energy source in Nepal. As the chair of NTNU Alumni Nepal, I would like to welcome you all again and wish the success of the webinar and thank all those involved in making it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Naranji. And with that opening remark, now I think we'll move on to the next, the key presenter, Professor Bhola Thapa. His topic is setting up the stage Nepal-Norway cooperation in research and development in hydropower development. And just Professor Bhola Thapa, he's a professor at Department of Mechanical Engineering at Kathmandu University. I have the opportunity to have had worked with him during my days at Hydro Lab when we worked together in collaboration for sediment and efficiency measurement. And he's very instrumental in setting up the turbine testing lab and now currently advisor to this green hydrogen lab. So now I'd like to hand it over to the mic to Professor Bhola Thapa. Please, Bhola Thapa.
Namaste to everybody. Thank you, Pratikji. And welcome to this webinar, all participants from Nepal and abroad. I'm really delighted to see so many participants in this webinar. In fact, we thought like it will be a activity for the NTNU alumni and then some of the Nepali people who are working on in the field of energy, but it's such an overwhelming participation. It is encouraging us to set the floor for this webinar. As Pratikji has already mentioned the name of the odd often, but I would also start setting a floor by remembering Professor Inge Johansson, who was a former rector of NTNU and who was sort of a father of starting an engineering program at Kathmandu University. It was a Professor Inge Johansson back in 1993 when he visited for the first time in Nepal with the invitation of the Odd Houghton, and Odd Houghton introduced him to Kathmandu University. He initiated to start engineering education, and especially in mechanical engineering at Kathmandu University. On that foot, on that ground, we are in position to hold this seminar today. I really would like to acknowledge the contribution of all Norwegian, including Odd Houghton and several other people starting from around very early days of Nepal-Norway cooperation for hydropower development, and from then to development of the education program in Nepal. I would also like to recall and remember the statement which Professor Inge Johansson mentioned during the early days when I met him back in 1994, when he was advised for the engineering education in Nepal. He said Nepal has to start mechanical engineering. Even the founders of the Kathmandu University had a very clear and very good vision for Nepal, but we didn't had a plan for starting a mechanical engineering. And then at that time, Professor Inge Johansson said, if a country has to develop a mechanical engineering is a foundation, and that we need to introduce a mechanical engineering. Even then, even though the people from the industry at that point at that time and the professionals, the mechanical engineers, they said like maybe mechanical engineering is not feasible in the country, but he insisted, he advised us to go for that. We went for that program, and we are at this, but we are very successful. We have a sustainable engineering education at the country, and we are starting in the similar fashion at the moment, because when we started talking about the hydrogen produced from hydropower, still sometimes we say that this is not feasible, or this is not needed for the country, but we are convinced and that we are starting this initiative. The strategy of the KU when we started our engineering as well as all other program was to keep water at the center, and then to develop our programs in its periphery, and definitely to utilize the hydropower in Nepali context. To utilize the water in Nepali context was best to transform it into the hydropower. And as Pratikji has already mentioned, so with the contribution and with the assistance of the Norway, we have developed the capacity through which we can utilize our water, and then we can develop our hydropower projects up to certain size by our own. I would also like to acknowledge all the initiatives of the Norwegian government, NORAD, Norwegian Embassy, as well as several other Norwegian partners for setting up of education in this country. Either it's at Kathmandu University or Tribhuvan University, especially on engineering program. Definitely there are several other socio-economic aspects are also contributed by Norwegian universities. Then we have developed certain level of the capacity in the country. Like for example, as Pratikji has already mentioned about the turbine testing lab, and then the hydro lab, where we can conduct state-of-the-art research of the world in international standards, and we can also contribute to the scientific community around the world. And then to establish these labs and to operate, to bring the lab at this context stage, there is a significant contribution of the Norwegian government, Norwegian academia, and Norwegian people. And we are running several programs in research, like either it's a PhD level program at Tribhuvan University, at Kathmandu University, or running programs of like Renewable Nepal and Energize Nepal, which will connect academia with the industry. We have been now reached to a certain level where we can utilize Nepali knowledge, Nepali skill, as well as we can utilize the Nepali resources funding for development of hydropower. Until now, we're more talking about how do we operate and manage these projects which we have developed. For example, we were dealing with the sediment related problems either through the hydro lab or TTL for running the project smoothly without any hassles. But is a hydropower a destination for Nepal, or it's only the means for the prosperity? This is a question at the moment. When we didn't have the enough electricity supply, when we had a load shedding, we used to say, okay, if we have a hydropower, that's all for us. But now when we have a sufficient hydropower, now we have started talking, hydropower is not the destination, but it's a mean for the prosperity, even for the Nepal. Even Nepali investors have started investing on the project. They have invested, but now they have started realizing what could be the problems. How do we use hydropower to generate the economy, to revolve the economy and to improve the lifestyle of the people? Normally, like here, it's talked either we export hydropower to get the revenue, to improve our economy, or to substitute the fuel for, let's say, cooking or some other purpose. But is it only mean? How can electricity which we have generated will add the value to the people here, to the resources available here, whether it's either it's natural resources or the agriculture? We have heard quite a lot from the NEA officials, even the private power producers, that now we need to improve our new loads. And on that context, we have started thinking, okay, let's start thinking in little different way. Why don't we produce a hydrogen so that that hydrogen can be used for different purpose in the society, as well as it can be alternative means for the fuel. When we are talking about the self-dependent economy, and when we have a communist government which says that we are more caring about the people, and when most of our people are dependent on the agriculture, it's a high time that we think in different way. I don't think like we should always think on the capitalist way. We should not always think on the return on investment on a very short period of time, because some of the things might not have an economic feasibility in a very short period of time, but that can be a sort of a vehicle for a transformation, which I am convinced, because the Kathmandu University would not have been feasible if we would have done an economic survey. So on that note, I would like to welcome you all on this discussion debate. So let's see that if hydrogen can be the alternative commodity which we produce from hydropower, and then that can develop this society, and hydrogen can complement for hydropower development. Welcome once again to everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bolaji, for being on time, and also thank you for highlighting the collaboration between Nepal and Norway, which is very, very, as I said, pertinent in the field of hydropower development in Nepal. And now we are, as I mentioned, we are going into the next stage and trying to find a very energy intensive industry for the immense potential that we have. And with that note, now I'd like to go to the next speaker. And the next speaker is our Krishna Prasad Acharya, who is the president of Independent Power Producer Association of Nepal. And he's going to highlight the current challenges that private sector hydropower development have in Nepal currently, and the way forward, new direction that we have. So, Mr. Acharya, please, the mic is over to you.
Thank you, Pratik. Thank you, Pratik. I am very much happy to be part of this webinar. And Professor Bhola Thapa and all the respected speakers and the friends from different part of the Nepal and other part of other country. It is my happiness. I am happy to share with some of the opportunities, challenge, and future of hydropower production in Nepal. Without any detailed explanation, I just want to go to some of my slides. Let me explain about what we have in Nepal now, energy sources. The hydropower sector in Nepal, present situation is where only 3% of total power required, whereas biofuels and waste is 72%, imported fuel oil is about 19%, coal is about 6%. It shows that the hydropower sector is very nominal. This is just for namesake only. It shows the potential of hydropower, huge potential of hydropower in Nepal. the total hydropower electricity demand supply is this shows the private IPP has produced about 40% of total requirement, whereas NA or government side is 35%, and they are ROR, private, all the private sector have ROR, and NA have over 3% of storage, and 22% of requirement is imported from India right now. If you see this slide, the theoretical hydropower potential of Nepal is 83,000 megawatt, and commercially it says it is 43%. 43,000 megawatt is commercially viable project, whereas the total installed capacity is only 1,273 megawatt only. So private sector has significant growth in this sector since last 25 years. Total capacity, 55% of total capacity is produced by private sector, and about 500,000 megawatt is under construction by the private sector, and 10,000 megawatt is under study. Due to the active participation of private sector, the import of energy from India was reduced by 38% last fiscal year. So the opportunity in Nepal is very high, for which you can say that the political stability is there in now. Before few years, there was the government was for 9 months. Every 9 or 10 months, the government was changed. Now the political stability is there. The present government will go for 5 years. So the government has announced the country to be middle income stage by 2030. It means we need a lot of hydropower or energy for this to achieve this goal. Growth per capita consumption they have is described is 1,500 kilowatt hour. So the installation setup like transmission, generation, electricity regulation committee, and power trading entity has been set up by the government. Positive policy changes, new act is under consideration. The regional market is very high because our neighbor, India, they have very big demand of electricity, for which the power trading agreement with India has been done in 2014. Energy cooperation agreement with Bangladesh was done in 2018. SAARC Energy Cooperation Framework was done in 2014. Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Nepal sub-regional cooperation for energy trade was also done. So in the same time there, we just came to know about the hydrogen fuel, for which we are going to discuss in later issue. Maybe most of the professor, scientists, technologists will explain about this hydrogen fuel, about hydrogen water from electrolysis to get the hydrogen, and from that we will have a fuel. We want to know more about this. I think we will hear in detail in another speaker, from another speaker. Let me say something about the challenge at the present status. The transmission system and road network is still lack in Nepal. Financial resources for about 15,000 megawatt, yet the government has declared by 2085, 15,000 megawatt has to be So for this, about 3,000 billion rupees is required. Local bank and financial institution funding is, I don't think it is adequate. They need some fund from outside also. Direct foreign investment is required with a hedging facility, which is not in now. So the policy should be changed to get these goals. There are many bureaucratic hurdles are there, delay in implementation. There is no, at the present, it is sorry to say that inter-ministry coordination is not exactly what is required. And the power generated by the IPP, the pricing and tariff should be competitive. Projects completed on time without cost overruns. Hydropower are prone to have cost and time overruns worldwide. Fixed PPA, we think the cost, the PPA now present power purchase agreement with, there is only one buyer in Nepal, NEA, and the power purchase agreement is not friendly with the developer. It is, I can say it is a one-sided for the benefit of NEA only. So this should be changed as per the requirement. There are other challenges. Domestic market transmission and distribution system and regional market can only be initiated when the cross-border guidelines and policies are aligned with the region. So the cross-border transmission line should be erected as soon as possible. There are other challenges also. Due to the weather change, climate change globally, the reduction of hydrology is there, lack of transmission corridors are there, outage in the system. The transmission line erected by the NEA is not to the standards in many areas. So the outage is sometimes unexpected. The bank interest rate is not stable. Numerous other regions have pushed hydropower projects in operation to financial crisis. There are some other challenges also. There are some technical challenges also. Workforce, geotechnical aspects, climate change and national disaster. Recently, we have COVID-19 pandemic. For its effect, we cannot forecast how much it will affect and the cost, how much cost we have to burn due to this pandemic. Because of financial crisis, the producer, the developer has faced so many financial crises, and because of the pandemic, the consumption of electricity is also reduced. So what to do again? So the way for this is create a leveling playing field for all the stakeholders, private and government. One window system should be there for all the relative clearance from the government side and from the concerning authorities. Facilitate the FDI, as I told before, the local bank and financial institutes are not able to invest for the huge projects. Expedite the construction of the transmission line. Address the issue of operational projects under financial stress. There are some projects which are on financial crisis. So we have already requested consulting ministry and authorities to review on these financially sick projects, create the demand creation, and immediate relief package for impacts due to the COVID-19, facilitate private developers to participate in trading energy with Nepal and international market. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Acharya, and also again, thank you for being very much on time And thank you for setting the stage about the challenges of hydropower development in Nepal, especially in terms of the infrastructure and the transmission line, and also for a larger market, like you said, about 15 gigawatt with requiring about 30 billion US dollars, and having a cross-border transmission line is very pertinent for that as well. And definitely the market. It was very enlightening. And though we have just the 3% of energy being served from hydropower, we have definitely a lot of potential, and Nepal being rich in water resources, I think we have a long way forward to go on the hydropower sector. With that note, I think I'd like to now come to the next presenter, who is Professor Krishna Panthi. And so he is going to talk about the preparedness of hydropower sector in Nepal for the alternative market. And currently he's a professor at the Department of Geoscience and Petroleum. And I happen to know him very well from my early days working in Jimmer project when we were together and working in the tunneling. So now he's a professor out there, and I'm working here in Nepal for the development of hydropower. So with that note, I think I hand over the mic to Professor Panthi. Please, Mr. Panthi.
Thank you very much, Pratik-ji. And all the participants who are listening this presentation.
I'm sorry, Panthi sir, can you make the full screen, please?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Full screen.
Yes, do you see now?
Yes, but I think.
But I am having this next slide, so I am not able to move my mouse to the computer. Why it is like this?
This is okay, sir. If you
okay,
maybe
I think you can carry on. I think that should be fine.
Yes, okay. So my talk for today is not very technical. So I'll be discussing little more on the management perspective and what Nepal should be going through, and then highlight the backdraws and try to encourage how to improve these areas. So I slightly changed my title. So the title is Preparedness of Nepal for Alternative Hydrogen Direction. So the basically during coming 15 minutes, I will be slightly again reviewing on the rivers and hydropower potential that we everybody know. Still, it is good to repeat it, and then I will move to the management capacity and readiness. So that is I divided in two areas. So one is political, and second one is project level management, of course, because both these issues are very key to have a successful development in the country. And then I will be briefly discussing about the perspective of hydrogen production, of course, and then conclude my presentation. So if we look on this Nepalese map, so we have many rivers in our country. So we have 5 major river basins, 2 bordering with India and 3 major basins in between. And we have over 6,000 large, medium and small rivers. So that we can harness for our well-being, of course. And the change in elevation is very dramatic from south to north. So it starts with 163, the minimum, and all the way to Mount Everest within 200 kilometer width. So this is incredible for us, and it's a huge asset in many ways. And we have a very steep topography, so that allows us to have a very high hydropower projects. And we have some challenges associated to rock engineering and tunneling, of course, because of the varying geology. but these are not major issues. So once we have a good knowledge about this, so all kind of difficulties can be tackled, in my opinion. So if we look on the hydropower potential in the country, so this is the picture that shows the total possibilities we have. So over 83,000 had been officially mentioned, but I think it is much more than that we have, but we have not studied how much really we can produce theoretically in Nepal. I think it should be over 100,000 with no any difficulties, I think. But today's condition is that we are even less than 2% potential that has been harnessed. So it would have been done much more, in fact. Even this 2%, it is difficult to use in the monsoon period. That means how behind we are is a issue of discussion. So the energy should be used, and it's a commodity, and society will use more and more once the society is developed. So development is a key here. So these untapped resources, how we can utilize, is a major discussions that the government authorities should discuss and study and focus on. So this is that means the political level management should be more educated in these sectors. They should know what is the best way to use the resources of the country. So they should look on the long term, not very short term, and also make a framework that that makes sense. So if we look on the hydropower perspectives for future, so it is the electrification of the society, of course, and it can be used for transport sector, and it should be used to the industrial use. So industrialization is a key for the employment generation and for the development of the country. And also partly we could export, but I am not that much excited on the export part, personally myself, because we don't have so much economically feasible energy that could be export for many years. So we can have some exchange between the countries, of course, but long-term export would be quite critical. Because once we start industrialization and once we go for the greener energy for transport sector, the need of electricity will be huge. And of course, hydrogen is a very good future, in fact, for Nepal. So hydrogen technology is evolving and it is becoming more feasible, more and more. So it means our energy could be tapped through hydrogen. So this is a major area. But are we ready for that is a matter of discussion, of course. So if we look on the management capacity and readiness, so I would talk first to the readiness of the political level. So political leadership is in the center, and it's the key for the development of any nation. So political leadership is the guide to bring a nation forward. So it is not only stability, the vision is very important. So we need a very visionary leadership that has a very good vision for Nepal's future generation. So not only that, and also they should have cleanliness and impartial. They should be, they should control the corruption. They should control the misuse of power. They should be honest to the people, and they should be impartial. Okay, but the tendency of our leadership is not that in that direction. So therefore, the key is the improvement of the management capacity within political leadership. This is the very key. The present leadership is has emerged through the struggles and fighting against to change the political system in Nepal. But how clever and how capable they are in managing the institutions, government institutions, is a matter of discussion here. So one should have very good vision, and one should have cleanliness and honest and impartial in leading. And then the leadership should have willpower to lead also, to manage the things, to deliver the things in a right way. So one cannot just blame to the people who are working under them. So if people are not working, it means they are unable to manage the things. So how to manage and how to bring people to work hard, to deliver things in time. So only then political leadership can get people's trust. People look on. So the society is very clever. They look from behind, even if they say that positive things in front, behind they always assess. So therefore, a key for such transformation from hydropower to hydrogen is a political leadership who should have very good vision, who should be able to talk to the society and also to the international community and make trust. This is very important. So therefore, the readiness on the to move in this direction is mainly through the political level is very important. So are we ready to move in this direction? Is the political leadership and society is ready? So does the society possess such visionary leadership in Nepal? When will it come? If not, if this is a visionary, so then when they will act in a right way is a very important issue. How are the decision process in the country? So how quick they do the decision? How is the bureaucracy? Are they efficient? Has the leadership managed to change their mentality? Is a matter of discussion. Is the environment conducive for foreign investment? Is many international corporate companies are eager to invest in Nepal? What is the investment capacity? So that has to be looked also, because to change to the mass large scale production of, for example, hydrogen, we need a huge investment, and also we should have a possibility to export this energy abroad. So we should have linkage and how to transport, from where to transport. These are also issues. So this is what foreign investment companies look for. So is there exist readiness for action? So is political leadership ready to do such changes? Is a very important issue. So how is the corporate culture within the country is another matter. So how commonly we work, how is the teamwork, how is the trust between the different stakeholders is very important. And finally, the most important part is the knowledge base. So we should have an education system that provides very good knowledge and develop a skilled manpower that is visionary, that is innovative, and that is research based. So to see that, so I will give briefly 3 projects review so that we see where we are with respect to management. So project level management will be dependent on the political management, of course. Yes,
Krishna ji, you need to wrap up in 2 minutes, please.
Yes, okay. So then if we look on the Melamsi project, so it was started in mid 1980s, and it most likely will finish in 2021, over 35 years to manage a project. How much resources we might have consumed for that. So this is incredible. So we should not be like this. It has to be changed. And if we look on the Upper Tamakosi, so it was identified first in 1996 or 97, and test edit was excavated in 2006. Financial investment managed in 2008, and it was supposed to be construction completed in 2015, but it has not been finished yet, and most likely it will be finished in 2021. So over 25 years to build a medium level project. So this is what we are. But it is not only the case. We have also successful cases like, for example, Kantha. It was a private investment, first private investment in Nepal, and it was identified sometime in 1987, and there was some investigation or test edit work during 94-95. Financial closure happened in 1996, and construction completion happened into even before the stipulated time. So it is possible to manage the projects in the right time even in Nepal, but we should have a very good and right direction on it. Okay. So what is the perspective then? So investment in capacity building through high quality education, research and innovation is the need for the country. Institutional development such as education and research institutions, engineering companies, construction contractors, regulatory institutions are very important to go to the right direction. Building positive environment, trust and confidence within the society is very key. Building conducive environment for foreign investment and collaboration is the must. So this is the area where we should focus. So in conclusion, there is a huge possibility in Nepal, of course, to produce hydrogen. However, comprehensive and well thought planning must be made to achieve commercially viable hydrogen production in the country. Considerable effort must be made to enhance skills in good governance and management. Honest, unbiased and visionary leadership team is needed in the country. However, small scale production could be an start point right now. So it is possible to start in a small scale, but large scale and commercially viable production, it will take long time and we need a long homework. So this is what I wanted to tell. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Professor Panthi, for highlighting the potential use of energy for hydrogen market. But despite there's potential for the hydrogen, there's, as you mentioned, there's a requirement for visionary leadership in terms of the policy as well as management to attract the FDI projects so that the environment is conducive for large-scale industries to come in. Thank you. With that note, I think now I'll move on to a very exciting topic about where we are really coming to. This will be presented by Professor Ole Gunnar Dahlhaug, and his topic is European perspectives on hydropower to hydrogen application, and the message from there to Nepal. And definitely, Professor Ole Gunnar Dahlhaug, I happen to have also worked with him while I was at the Hydro Lab. So nice meeting you again, Professor Dahlhaug. And he's a professor at the Department of Energy and Process Engineering at NTNU. So currently, he's the leader of HydroSend project at NTNU University, which is the largest R&D project in hydropower in Europe. So with that note, I hand the mic to Professor Dahlhaug, please.
Thank you, Pratik. I think, Krishna, can you turn off your view so I can show my screen?
So first we need, just a minute.
Stop presentation, sir. There is a stop presentation.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have not left, I think, my presentation. How to do that?
Stop sharing.
Stop sharing, and Professor Dahlhaug can then share his screen.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
Okay. So,
Thank
Professor,
you.
on to you.
All right. I'll try to make it visible. All right. Let's see if I can. All right, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
All right, okay, thank you. First of all, dear friends, colleagues, and NTNU alumni, namaste. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the European perspective on hydrogen, just to show and tell what's going on. And I think this is very relevant to what's going on or what you're talking about in Nepal, because the development here might be relevant for your development as well. My background is from Hydropower, and I'm a mechanical engineer, and I have been to Nepal many times. And I believe that hydrogen is a huge possibility for Nepal. No doubt about that. First of all, I would like to share with you that someone or Bloomberg say that 24% of the world energy consumption will be covered by hydrogen in 2050. That's a huge amount. And I think hydropower will be one of the sources where it can be produced. Knowing the potential in Nepal, it's a huge possibility. We need, of course, a renewable energy source. Right now, wind and sun and hydro are very good alternatives. I know that waves as well will be available in the future, but there are no doubts that hydro, wind and sun will be utilized in the years to come. For Nepal and also for Norway, the run-of-the-river hydropower plants are very good options for this. Just to give you a brief background, hydropower is flexible. Flexible means that it inhabits capabilities with quick response, stability, it's secure availability of energy, and you can store it, and you can also adapt to the climate changes. For Nepal, all of these things are available. Knowing that 43,000 megawatt potential, it's a tremendous possibility. Right now, these days, 26.5% of the electricity generation in the world is coming from renewables. Out of this, 16.4% is coming from hydropower. And we know that we have 4 times more in capacity, meaning a potential is 4 times more worldwide. And for sure, some of this will be utilized to generate hydrogen. The European ambition is targeting 32% renewables in 2030. I think they are now talking about 33. And it has to be carbon neutral by 2050. That's the ambition we have. And of course, Norway is coming along on that ambition. Just take a look back, see what has been done. As early as 1991, Germany introduces the first feed-in tariff for renewables, meaning if you had renewables, put it online, you get extra paid for it. In 1997, EU had a target of 12% of renewables by 2010. And if you look forward in 2009, the target was 20% by 2020. And today the target is 32% by 2030. The whole thing here is that we are going from feed-in tariffs or extra payment for renewables to extra cost for emissions. There are no doubt that the Paris Agreement introduced tariffs or extra cost for emissions in the system, meaning it will no longer be feed-in tariffs for us for new renewables, but it will be taxes for emissions. So that's the big change. Moving forward though to the hydrogen strategy of the EU, they have said that 6 gigawatts of renewables will be set up in the EU for electrolyzers. So but from now until 2024, the goal is to introduce 6 gigawatts of electrolyzers for hydrogen generation. From 2025 to 2030, a minimum of 40 gigawatts has to be utilized for hydrogen electrolyzers. And that will generate up to 10 million tons of hydrogen annually in the EU. This is, and if you look at these numbers and the investments needed to handle the goal until 2030 is 460 billion euros. That's 42 for electrolysis, 340 for production, and 65 for transport sector. And in the long run, the share of hydrogen in Europe's energy mix is projected to grow to 14% by 2050. 14% out of the whole European energy mix. That's quite a lot. If you look at the Norwegian ambition, we are of course following the EU ambition, and sometimes we tend to go a little bit higher. And in our case, we aim to reduce emissions by 50% by 2030. And we aim to reach the same carbon neutrality by 2050. It means that the emission has to be reduced by 95% compared to 1990. The production of hydrogen, in our case, can come from natural gas. And if we capture the carbon, the CO2, and store it, then it will be looked as, they call it blue hydrogen. But that's an intermediate solution, at least until it's cheaper, and for a period of time, it's a possibility for Norway. But in the long run, or in the future, we will utilize hydro, wind, waves, sun, biomass. And right now, the Norwegian Research Council is giving money for the development of technologies that can handle or can produce hydrogen from these renewables. We have a history of producing hydrogen, and we had electrolysis above 100 megawatts in the 1940s. So we have some information about it, and we have some experiences. And you will see here the Norway will increase the taxes on CO2 emissions by 5% every year until 2025, meaning it will be more and more costly to utilize other sources than the renewables. That means hydrogen will be more and more economically viable as a source. I know that Nepal has a huge possibility, and its system is maybe better to handle it than the Norwegian one. You have a large hydropower potential, technically, economically feasible for 2,000. I heard 43 in the former presentation. You have mostly run-of-the-river power plants, meaning and excess energy available in monsoon season, which is perfect for producing the hydrogen. It can be produced in small locations, and it can be done without grid connections. Imagine Kathmandu Valley without a vehicle that runs on fossil fuels. It would be a better place. No doubt about that. I believe it can be handled. I think it's possible. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Dahlhaug. Very interesting presentation from the European perspective. I didn't have all the data, but I can see from your presentation, there's an immense potential coming up for the hydrogen market in terms of energy as an energy source, and especially so in the form of transportation, like you mentioned, like if we could use it in Nepal from the monsoon surplus energy, and using that in terms of transportation to kind of supplement the export and the oils and fuels that we have been, buying from abroad. So from our own resources, water resources, that would be just amazing. So from using water itself, now producing energy out of it, and now trying to break the water, splitting the water again into hydrogen, and this is amazing. I mean, to me, it's fascinating, but definitely it has to be commercially viable. So thank you for your very nice presentation on that. And with that note, next exciting presentation we have is from Assistant Professor Biraj Singh Thapa, who has been working at the KU on this. So his topic is opportunities from hydropower to hydrogen in Nepal, and initiatives taken from KU. So this is more from the academic side, but I think definitely if it's commercially viable, there'll be a lot of industries that will be cooperating to make it viable for Nepal. And with that note, I hand the mic to Dr. Thapa.
Thank you.
So, and
Thank
he's
you,
also the
Professor.
team leader at the Green Hydrogen Lab at KU. Okay, yours, please.
It's my pleasure. It's so fascinating. I'm overwhelmed by the preceding presenters on their views. They have laid a perfect background for my presentation. It's so wonderful and so exciting number of participants. We have crossed around 400 participants. That's a huge audience. So that will definitely make a big difference. So having said this, Professor Ole and others have already laid a background on why we need hydrogen or clean energy in particular for our part of the region. Even Norway and Europe, they are dreaming, or they are trying, they are putting tough rules to go further green by WHO standards. They are already very, very green compared to our region, compared to the pollution parameter of PM 2.5. So look at that. In our part of the world, it's completely red. So it's even our part of the world should be more conscious to turn ourselves to green and become more greener, because this carbon emissions and global warming problems has caused a lot of bad things around the world. This is the news from yesterday. We have been blamed for wiping off 2/3 of populations from the earth in just 50 years. And the emissions and global warming are responsible to that. So maybe we are more, even in future, we are even more responsible if we keep this red. So our part of the world has to have a more conscious and make the transition towards green. That's I think the overall background of why we need these discussions, particularly in our part of the world. And if we see the global GDP, the people are becoming rich, the energy efficiency is getting high, so absolute energy consumption is actually getting low. And due to the realization of the fact that we need to change our energy patterns, most of the countries are switching towards renewables. If you see in 2020, we are less than 20%, even less than 15% energy is coming from renewables, but the trends are changing. If you go to 2100, you can see the fossil fuels. So that's a big change. That's a huge change. And that means a lot of things happening around the world, solar, wind, and other parts as well. And we see, a lot of people see hydrogen as one of the major components. That's a key thing that drives the change. And we can see from 2015, the projections to 2050, the consumption of hydrogen or demand for hydrogen will rise more than 10 times. And you can see now we are limited to the feedstock industries, some chemical processing industries, but many new dimensions are coming up. A big part of the energy will be consumed in transportation. Huge part of energy will be from hydrogen will be consumed in industry, building power, new industries, power generations. So a lot of new things are coming around the world, and that will change the economy. That will change our employment patterns. That will change our politics. That will change what we should teach in our university to provide new batches of engineers and policymakers to make these changes. That's a huge change. So we can feel that by 2050, the world will not remain as it is right now. It will change quite a lot. And hydrogen is one of the indicators that will drive that change. And we can see in Nepal, there was some hydrogen application in past. Until 2013, we saw some hydrogen industries or the industries based on hydrogen, but suddenly it has dropped down. So many reasons behind that, but we want to see new industries coming up, maybe taking over this part of the transition in future. That's our role. That's our generation's contribution. And we see hydropower as a contributor, because hydrogen is not a primary source of energy. It's a secondary source. It's an energy carrier actually. So we need a primary energy, maybe from the natural gas, maybe from the solar, wind. In our case, we have hydropower. More than 24,000 megawatts of hydropower are in some stages of development. And we can see by 2030, we can expect 7,000 new hydropower plants being developed in Nepal. So that's a huge project, huge prospects, and that's our opportunity. We should be able to cater them in some ways. Of course, a lot of debates are there to export the electricity and make money out of it. But of course, Professor Panthi has outlined that's not a best way to do. We need to consume something inside as well. But if we see in 2030, the demand of the hydropower, local demand on the best scenario, with all the cooking stove change into electricity, 50% of the small vehicles converted into electric vehicles in Kathmandu Valley. Still, the demand will not rise more than 10,000. But in case the best development situation, we will have 18,000 megawatts power generated. So we can clearly see the surplus amount of energy that is there if we don't intervene it, if we don't have a new industries, if we don't have a new solutions to the problems that we have facing right now. That needs some critical thinking. Professor Panthi has quite interestingly led the foundation, and that's where the political activists or political movements should have a better idea. That should be where universities should contribute. And if we are able to sell or utilize those electricity, at least we can have some projections by 2025. If we start to export or utilize those electricity in better way, then this is the scenario. And the projection has shown that Nepal has an immense possibility to become rich just by utilizing the hydro energy, $3 billion per year in 2030. And that could be as high as 10 billions per year in 2045, just by utilizing our electricity. Maybe it be export or in all other forms. This is the huge opportunity to our generation. But some other studies has bit different studies. So even if we develop our hydropower, we can see what will be the scenario of the petroleum products. It has exponential growth. I was quite surprised, quite angry actually, to be honest. Sorry for that. I don't want my country to be hydro rich and dependent on this fossil fuel rise, and particularly on diesels that is shown as the trends, and this will keep on increasing. And diesels are normally considered as the fossil fuels which cannot be decarbonized. It is very rare to replace it by electric vehicles or other conventional form of renewable sources, and that is the prospect. And hydrogen has shown some possibilities to replace diesel as an alternative fuel for large buses, large lorry carriers that transports the goods from Calcutta port up to the Karnali Hills. So all those diesel-fed buses and trucks can be replaced. Not now, of course not now. It takes time, and that is future. And the projection, if things goes right now like this, if Nepal becomes rich by exporting the hydro energy, what will happen? From now, if the things go like this, we have 7% dependency on diesel, that will rise to 18%. And that is huge. Right now, billions of dollars are going to India and abroad just to import diesels. And if it takes 18% of share in our economy for energy, that's not something that our generation will be happy. I think next generation will feel very bad about our generation, that we did nothing. We knew it's going to be happening, but we did nothing to intervene. The rise of diesel consumption from 7% to 18%, that will be, to be honest, a curse for our countries. There are some other challenges. We are still considered as a very, very poorly developing country, where the rest of the world is crossing towards $20,000 per capita. We are stick to 1,000. Trade deficit is immensely high, nearly impossible to combat. Farmers are standing in queues despite of coronavirus. There is no social distancing. A lot of people are just standing in queues, and that could be as long as 2 kilometers in some cases. So many things are happening. We have, but on the other side, 200 megawatts of spill energy is happening every night this monsoon season. It is expected 400 megawatts will be spilled next year, and that will be continue to increase. Our grid quality and reliability for power trading is not good. In this condition, India, for example, Tata Motors and other companies is not going to buy our electricity because we have very low quality of power and reliability. Our projects, particularly small projects, are getting sick and they are close to be bankrupt. Due to the excess of grid, micro hydro sector is inverse to collapse. So this is the challenges for our generation to tackle. for our leadership to handle. And I see there are, of course, political and other areas, but hydrogen could be one of the interventions that we can make. We can learn from others and implement in our case. Maybe on transport to replace diesels, maybe on the electricity for grid balancing and for maintaining the quality, new industrial processes, fertilizer plants, chemical industries, a lot of mining industries are coming up. The next business in Nepal is being towards the mining after the cement industries. And of course, we have the possibility to export. If Norway and Europe is consuming a lot of hydrogen in future, why not Nepal can export? Why not Nepal can be an exporter of the hydrogen in the world context? That's our part of the study. So that is our realization, the institutional realization of Kathmandu University that led to form something we call as Green Hydrogen Lab. And I am trying to push our research. So we were approved on 2nd of August. So it's less than 2 months old, but we have been able to find very good and competent 9 researchers that are working on different aspects. But we carry the vision to strengthen our industries in Nepal to produce and store and transmit hydrogen in commercial level. And our vision is technology transfer and local adaptation. We cannot do the fundamental research right now, but of course, a lot of countries are doing the fundamental research. So our aim is to transfer the technology, adapt it in the local conditions, do the research that our country and our industry needs, and produce the human resources that can handle the future projects in Nepal. We have so many things going on. We have proposed a full-fledged lab. I will not go in details, but we have done so far all the contributions from the university alone, but university alone cannot do it by themselves. We need the contribution from industries, contribution from hydropower sector, from government agencies, from grant agencies to build up the facilities, to conduct the research, to transfer the technology, to create the human resources that we need in future. The priority is what we call as green hydrogen as a fit. This is the new technology that can make the country, Nepal, and the region fit. Fertilizers for Nepal, food security and food stability, industrial sector. We can have a boom in industrial sector through introduction of hydrogen, in particularly in mining and iron processing industries right now, and also in transport in future. We focus on hydrogen through hydropower at priority, but also from biogas, from wind and solar as well. We have already started to talk on the demonstration project level. This is one project that Kathmandu University and NEA engineering company are jointly working on. Hitendra Devsake, MD of the NEC, will discuss more about that. But we can say we want to start with something real, practical, implementable, and having some impact. Small scale, 500 kilowatt, producing urea for the fertilizer. And that could initiate a lot of things that we can learn so many things from this project. So many experts can be engaged with us. And if we are successful in this project, of course, that will open a door. Maybe Nepal can cater 100% of demand of urea locally. Maybe one day Nepal can export back urea to India, because India is still importing urea from Saudi Arabia and other parts of the world. Of course, economy, technology, market competitiveness, political readiness, everything is there. But from the university perspective, this is our move, and we keep on moving. We keep on pushing people to make the conscious decision. That's what our lab and university has taken up the rules. So this is something we like to visualize Nepal in 2040. We want to see Nepal as a green hydrogen ecosystem. Of course, the rest of the world, particularly Europe, will achieve something like this in 2030, as Professor Ole Gunnar mentioned. But at least for Nepal, if we start today, maybe in 2040, we can say farewell to the fossil fuels. We can invite a lot of electrical based technologies, driving from hydropower, solar, wind, biogas. And of course, we want to see the green hydrogen lab to be evolved and contributing to convert the evolvement of hydrogen-based industries in Nepal. Then maybe one day we want to export hydrogen to Europe and rest of the world. Maybe our economy and our society will be driven by hydrogen, to smart cities, to industrial revolutions, and hydrogen fuel transport system. So this is a dream that the academia wants the society to have, the politicians to take their agenda. And it's not impossible, like Ole Gunnar also mentioned. It's possible, it's practicable. The world is moving. If they are moving, we should move, and we should maybe at sometimes we can lead, at least in our country, in our region. So I did not talk about the technical matters, but this is what we are working on. And there are so many technical details, so many challenges, so many things to be considered, safety issues and other issues. My colleague, my professor Bruno, who is the team leader of NTNU hydrogen team, will explain about the challenges. But from the academic perspective, this is the opportunities that we can feel, we can dream, and we can realize. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Biraj. Very enlightening. And thank you for continuing your effort on the green hydrogen lab. And definitely, I think the dream of replacing the fossil fuels with the hydrogen energy, using hydropower as a primary source and creating secondary source of energy using hydrogen, not only in terms of transportation, but you have brought out a new area where we use it for even urea. So I think there's an immense potential. So wherever there's a will, there's a way. So with that note, I think I would like to come to the next presenter, another very exciting presentation from Professor Bruno G. Pollet. And his topic on the presentation is challenges with hydrogen technologies and a lesson learned from NTNU. And that could be a very good lesson for the Kathmandu University as well as for Nepal as we try to embark on utilizing the immense potential of hydropower that we have for generating hydrogen. And with that note, I hand over the mic to Professor Bruno. And Professor Bruno is he's a professor at Department of Energy and Process Engineering, and he's the leader of Team Hydrogen at NTNU, which is the largest hydrogen project in Norway. So it will be very exciting to hear from you the challenges on the technology and if that is suitable for a country like Nepal, where we are still struggling with a lot of technological aspects. Okay, over to you, Bruno.
Thank you very much for your kind invitation, and what a wonderful actually line of speakers here, and on the passion around really hydrogen is immense, and I share totally that passion too. I would like to share my screen now, so I think we'll try to that. And so I'm going to give you really a challenge, my presentation to be a bit more, I would say, yes, challenges, but also within the challenges, we have tremendous opportunities within hydrogen technology. So I'm going to first to really give you a bit of a snapshot about NTNU Team Hydrogen, being created early 2019, and we have around 35 professors and 55 or more researchers who are actually looking on that value chain of hydrogen. We are pretty much looking at from nanomaterials to catalysis, really for fuel cells, electrolyzers, and reforming systems, to really bipolar plates, membrane, and liquid hydrogen, ammonia, and also we are pretty much looking into systems like into maritime systems, system integration, and we are really involved in technical, economic, and life cycle analysis of the systems. So really, we're covering pretty much this R&D value chain here at NTNU, and it's nice because we can really talk to the engineer, but also to a modeler, a chemist, and try to understand really the process and the systems from nanomaterial to system level. So really, I've been in Norway since 2017, coming from the UK, and I was pretty much very interested about this country because obviously not only they are plentiful of oil and gas, and they supply about 25% of the EU gas demand. You know, it's one of the biggest economy. The second largest is actually the fishing industry, and also they're very blessed with, as we know, with renewable electricity. 98% comes from renewable, which is actually fantastic, and mainly, as we know, hydropower. And these are exciting times in hydrogen. I've been in the business for nearly 20 years, and I've never seen such a really kind of a enthusiasm around hydrogen, and every industries now that I've been talking to, and they are really focusing and looking to having hydrogen and in deploying hydrogen systems into the businesses, into the countries, into the societies, and this is really exciting times. In terms of Norway, which is pretty clear, we really want that to happen. We have a strong hydrogen value chain, and really us as educators, as practitioners, as academic practitioners, what we want is to really train, educate the next generation of technologists and scientists into that really exciting area. So at present, we have two possibilities here, and that's what we are looking at: generation of blue hydrogen, basically, reforming natural gas and using some kind of CCS systems, and obviously something that we're very keen to. It's the production of green hydrogen, renewable hydrogen, and trying to capitalize on what we have here: hydropower, thermal power, or wind power. And there was a study done by SINTEF a couple of years ago, and they estimated that around by 2050, the market for exporting hydrogen in Norway, or from Norway, could amount to 20 billion euros in annual revenue, and could potentially employ more than 25,000 jobs, which is really, really good news. And also another good news as well, and that could also to challenges. This is an early report from the IEA, and they states that the global capacity for electrolyzers, actually producing hydrogen from water and from electricity, could expand to 3.3 terawatt in the sustainable development scenario from 0.2 gigawatt today, which is huge, absolutely huge. So when we're talking about really around 110 gigawatt on average of new installation per year until 2050. Obviously, and Ole Gunnar actually mentioned that very, very nicely, and we are on a very good pathway here. So the green hydrogen deployment in Europe, 3 stages. We're looking at really 2024 producing 1 million ton of renewable hydrogen and kickstart the power production. 2025, 2030 to increase energy production to 10 million of hydrogen, or 10 million ton of hydrogen, and really try to decarbonize a large part of the European energy sectors, which is obviously, as we know, very dirty. And the 2030, 2050, try to modernize and fully transform sectors that are really difficult to decarbonize, such as maritime, obviously, and the transport sector. But obviously, to come with that, we have challenges. Okay, now we have to see more fuel cell and electrolyzer companies from systems to really components. At the moment, we are a bit lacking this in Europe. And obviously, some example here that's really very, in terms of pilot plant that's developed in South Africa. But one trying to say we have to kickstart somewhere to try to deploy really that manufacturing into different really sectors. Okay, this is another example here of fabrication of fuel cell and electrolyzer stack, which is important for for the transport sector, stationary sector, but also for producing hydrogen through electrolyzers. So here in Norway, we have we have a strong infrastructure in terms of hydrogen fuel cell, and this is what we need to have in order to really test the validity, test the integrity of materials before it goes into a proper system, which could be commercialized. So we have we have this Norwegian Fuel Cell Knowledge Center, which is split between NTNU, SINTEF, and IFE, and it's sponsored by the Research Council of Norway. Also at NTNU, we have quite a really wide range of systems and equipment to test, from nanomaterial to system integration, those fuel cell and electrolyzers. And the most important thing that I always keep talking about is education. Education. We need to really educate the next generation of engineers and scientists and economists to that new area. So we need to implement master's and doctoral study programs in order to really fulfill the requirement of that new industry. So, let's say that electrolyzer company being set up, we need to actually have the know-how and the capabilities to really get the qualified people to work in those sectors. But also in terms of the technology, fuel cell, low temperature fuel cell, that's mainly used for the transport sector, has also some problems in terms of really the expensive material, the PGM, the platinum group metal that we're using. Is quite actually quite a substantial amount. We've done quite a good actually really reduction over the years, but we're trying to really move away from PGM to really something which is quite cheap and cheerful, but in a way durable as well as platinum. In terms of water electrolyzers, at the moment we are looking at two technologies in terms of commercial, the alkaline electrolyzer cell, and also the proton membrane water electrolyzers. One of them, the proton membrane electrolyzer, using also an expensive platinum group metal, iridium dioxide, and we're trying to move away also from these really expensive catalysts. If we were to compare to PEM fuel cells, we are actually using quite a lot of PGM in a PEM water electrolyzer. So also in terms of the water electrolyzer systems, we have to focus on trying to minimizing those over potential, and also those resistance that we're seeing in those systems. If we look at efficiencies at let's say 40 kilograms per square meter, we're looking about efficiency 55%, which is really could be improved really. So what do we need to do? We need to look at new materials, try to really improve on the catalysis, improve on the durability, improve on the over potential and on resistivity or resistance or conductivity even of the material and electrolyte. So those two systems, really two group metals, we need to really focus on reducing the loading or really replacing this altogether. But over the years, this is a paper that I published with ex-colleague Maisham Kosha, where we are showing the evolution of really platinum over the years. We've done a very good job in the last really, I would say, 15 years. We nearly by a factor of 10 in terms of the loading of platinum. The system is still a bit expensive, nearly a third of the really, even half of the system cost comes from the platinum, which is quite a lot. We need to reduce that. But if you see over the years, the evolution, we've done quite a good job in terms of the material and system as well. So for those who are interested, this is a paper that was published last year on the subject. So let's give an example here. I'm going to be very quick, but if you have, let's say, a stack, a PEM fuel cell stack of 100 kilowatt, let's say the cost is about 30 euros a gram for your platinum. You're looking about really for 40 grams of platinum, about 1,200 euros, which is quite expensive. It's actually more expensive than actually buying your internal combustion engine from some parts of the world. Okay, so the main objective is to decrease that really to some proper loadings, or even to remove it once it falls to some non-PGM metals. Obviously, scarcity is a problem. Or the PGM durability is a problem as well. We see also platinum dissolution, which also get aggregation and sintering. Also carbon corrosion happening on your catalyst. So also, there are also other challenges, which for me are the showstoppers, really. We don't have, per se, a regulatory harmonization to European region, in terms of framework to support or not power to gas. Okay, we have also no European coordinated approach to joint effort to health and safety and technical integrity for hydrogen injection to natural gas and grid networks, which impose uniform regulatory legislation across Europe. Also, the cost of water electrolyzer on fuel cell system are quite high, as I actually mentioned early on. Also, for the complete hydrogen economy and supply chain, we must really deploy that supply chain through renewable hydrogen production, hydrogen fuel cell system for use in domestic and industrial applications. Another point as well that we need to focus to other fuels, or other alternative energy carriers. Like ammonia, for example, especially important for the transport sector, like in the maritime sector. But there we have a lack of effective and safe infrastructure. Safety issues are also related to handling on storage. So we have a lot really of challenges to overcome. Now, coming back really to the infrastructure, we need to look at, compressed hydrogen on liquid hydrogen for logistic handling, some kind of banking system and procedures. We need to really overcome those barriers of safety and really implement some procedure, look at new advanced materials for those type of fuel storage. Okay, we need to look at the total system integration, not only fuel cell based, but it could be also a battery fuel cell, battery, for example, to shave the peaks. Also look at other type of electrical system, I say DC, for example. So there's a lot of things to be done. On that note, I would like to thank you for your time. It was a sweet and short presentation. And once again, if you want to know more about what we do here at NTNU, please do drop me an email. We have also a Twitter account called @NTNU Team H2 if you want to follow us on what we're doing so far. And I would like to say thank you very much. And we are very much open for collaboration. Thank you.
Tusen tack, Bruno. Thank you for your
Okay.
nice, very nice and elaborate presentation. I mean, it's amazing that Norway is looking for export of almost 20 billion euro from the hydropower in the next decade or so. That's really amazing. And also at the same time, looking for great opportunities for employment, and definitely, as you mentioned, there are challenges with the new technology, especially in terms of education, with being a new industry and bringing know-how. So this is an evolving process, but I think definitely there's challenges, but the world definitely looking forward to renewable energy and source of, use of energy for a better future, for better utilization of energy, especially from the Nepal perspective. I can see that if we can really make this commercially viable, I think the way we have a forward for our market for hydropower. Thank you again. And with that note,
thank you very much.
With that note, I would like to go to our next presenter, who is Hitendra Dev Shake, and his presentation is a case study of hydropower to hydrogen to urea for surplus electricity management. So we are not only going to hydrogen, but I think we are stepping one step ahead, going to even urea. So with that presentation, I'd like to just introduce Hitendra. He was my classmate when we were in college, actually. But currently he is the managing director at NEA Engineering Company, which provides all kinds of engineering services to NEA, which is a government body. So he's representing more to us today from the government sector, and he has immense experience from working in NEA, and I think his knowledge and his experience will be highlighting for the new market that we have been looking forward. So on to you, the mic, Hitendra.
Thank you, Pratik. Namaste. Good afternoon in Asia, and good morning, I think, in Europe and Norway, and good evening elsewhere. Good times. Distinguished speakers of the webinar, participants, organizers, and fellow NTNU alumni members. It's my pleasure to speak about hydropower to hydrogen. And although this topic given to me was government priorities for sustainable hydropower development and role of NEA, I found this is not my topic because I'm not really government. I work for Nepal Electricity Authority, which is a utility, and especially an engineering company, which is a design wing of the NEA. And so I would like to focus myself on hydropower to hydrogen for sustainable hydropower of Nepal. Actually, I have nothing new to add. These are all known things, and I just like to put all these things in the colors in a canvas in such a way that it gives a new message, the same things, but put together in a way so that it conveys a message for decision making and for action. And I'll be talking about existing energy scenario, which is again the same thing everybody talks about in the energy sector, the capacity energy balance and energy storage systems as a means for sustainability, and the favorite subject here, the hydrogen and ammonia and urea production, and finally the role of the Nepal Electricity Authority in the above sector. So to begin with, this is a well-known figure for people from Nepal. The peak demand was always always higher than the available power since 10 years. But since only 2 years ago, it has been, I mean, the load setting was not there. The demand was equal to the supply, 19 and 20. And now it's interesting that the demand has tipped a little bit in 2019, the peak demand, and then started to grow again. And before it was taking off, the COVID-19 happened. And so it seems like the peak demand is not going to be as we have projected. And although we are in a pressure to, to inflate the peak demand so as to, accommodate more power purchases in the past. And well, that is a good in a sense, the power purchase scenario, power generation from private sector, it has the locomotive, it has taken speed. And so it is increasing and it's good. And, but now the next thing is how do we use that generation? This is the curve from last year, this season, almost the same day. It's interesting to note that the load curve has almost flattened, and the load factor is almost more than 70% at this time, which used to be 51, 52% 5-6 years ago, and there was a dispute, there was a doubt about the load setting, actual load setting. But anyway, it was between 50 to 55% load factor, and now it is 75%. That's interesting, good for us, good for the utility, because the hydro generation is almost constant over a day. At least over a day, it's almost constant, it doesn't go up and down. And so the demand should also be following like that. We would wish, but it doesn't. And there is in a day, sometimes it's like in the right-hand side, the demand goes up and down, but the supply is constant. And going forward from 2020, with earlier speaker has already presented, there's a massive growth and there's a momentum, and the generation is projected to go up. By 2030, the yellow line shows capacity, and the blue line is very optimistic, I would say, optimistic demand. If we do nothing from the government side and for the other industrial sector, we go business as usual in the electricity consumption side, even that projection may not be happening. We need policy interventions to increase electricity consumption in domestic, agriculture, industry sector. And one of the sector areas is using surplus electricity to producing hydrogen. And this figure shows the energy balance in an annual way. So there is going to be, the green line shows the spill energy if we don't use for other alternative uses of electricity, and if we are not able to export. Right now we're taking it for granted that we will be able to export, but export is such a tricky thing. It depends upon the other persons, other countries, policies and market. And so I've categorized this as a spilled energy. And not only this yearly, but if you look at the seasonal, the problem with the hydropower is that it is very seasonal. So it's in a month, 600 gigawatt hour generation in a month in July, and goes down to about 300 gigawatt hour in March. But the demand is almost constant. There is no reason the demand should go up and down. In the summer season is slightly higher, But because of our country, we have cold and hot regions both. So at one place the demand goes up, the other place the demand goes down. So there's not real difference in the seasonal demand, but supply is much varying. So we are looking for a solution. So the system demands energy storage. And because, as I said, energy security means that we don't rely, of course, exporting is an easy way out, but we should also look for creating domestic load. So the energy storage systems, they are, from pumped hydro to compressed air, molten salt, lithium ion, lead acid for battery, hydrogen, and flywheel. And their efficiencies are quite varying. And hydrogen is a very low efficiency technology right now at present. We're hoping it will go up. And so for electricity generation, back regenerating from hydropower to hydrogen back to a power is not really interesting. But can we find different other uses for hydrogen? One is a fuel cell, and fuel cells, I think, is still under research in modern, in the first world countries, and hydrogen fuel cell for transportation is being commercialized, but it will take time to reach us. But what we're saying is, meanwhile, what we can do is generate hydrogen. If we have hydrogen, the vehicle technology can be transported quickly. So we can just get the vehicle and we have the hydrogen, we can start the business. The hydrogen generation technology, that we will have to familiarize ourselves and build our capacity and our confidence. So at NEA Engineering, we wanted to look at the application of hydrogen generation. And there are two methods normally used for hydrogen generation. And I found that for storage and 20 hours a day in the surplus season of monsoon, it is probably alkaline electrolyzer is a little bit cheaper than PEM electrolyzer in capital costs. And but the startup time and it is a little bit slow, the response time. And during wet season, for 5 or 6 months a year, you'll have plenty of surplus energy, but during peak 4 hours or 3 hours, you will have to go down. Warm start time. You should stay in warm without consuming much energy. So alkaline electrolyzer, I think, fits our requirement. So we looked at how much we can produce in that way, 20 hours a day, if we use a 500 kilowatt hydrogen electrolyzer, and the figures are given there. About 180 kg of hydrogen per day can be produced, and which can be used to produce ammonia of about 1 ton of ammonia per day. The reason for ammonia production is that we have another problem, not only electricity surplus right now. Another problem is the fertilizer scarcity during this farming season every year, and there's a lot of fertilizer scarcity. So this hydrogen could be used to produce fertilizer, and then from those two products we could probably find out a feasible solution. These are, I think, already presented about the process of hydrogen production and the cost of hydrogen production. We did, requested some quotations from actual, hydrogen producer, small scale hydrogen producing, manufacturing companies, and from their capital costs and energy costs and storage costs, we try to find out how much it costs for hydrogen production at a small scale. So at 50 kilowatt, it's quite high, but as you go 350, 400 kilowatt, then the cost seems to flatten. And we have not checked at megawatt scale if the cost of hydrogen production goes down further But it looks like after that, it's not going so drastically. So we said, okay, let's try a 500 kilowatt hydrogen plant, and let's see how much it costs for the capital costs. Apart from hydrogen production, you have to also filter from air the nitrogen, liquefy it, and store it for producing ammonia. So this is the ammonia production plant, and it's also a very small plants are possible to install. We have seen this even in Nepal, in some place, the ammonia producing plant can be, the nitrogen producing plants are available are installed in some places in Nepal. And from these hydrogen and nitrogen, this is called the Haber-Bosch process. That is a very exothermic process containing, consisting of high pressure and high temperature. But even this is now available in small scale. So we can produce ammonia from this hydrogen and nitrogen, and thus ammonia can be either used as a fuel for gas turbines, but our aim is to get the maximum value. And I think we thought that the maximum value is available from urea production. And so we found, here you can see that, about 5.6 kg, 7 kg of ammonia will produce about 10 kg of urea. This process is called, in the urea production part, we are still looking for a quotation from manufacturer. Right now, we haven't had any quotation about what will be the smallest size and what will be the cost. So up to ammonia, we have got the costs from manufacturers. And we looked at the previous study done by JICA for urea production, and it was a quite big scale. So the cost was about $144 million at that time, and it still matches with what we have found out for a 500 kilowatt. It is a 76 megawatt plant, and it will be able to produce 275 tons per day. So it is matching what we are doing at 500 kilowatt. Also, it's matching. 500 kilowatt will be producing about 1.8 metric tons of urea per day, and here it is producing 275 tons per day. So it's almost the same. And the study showed that if the tariff price is reduced 40%, then it is feasible. The tariff used was 3.8 cents per unit. So presently our tariff is about 4 cents per unit. So 40% decrease means 2 cents. So our policy right now is that during wet season, if there is a surplus, the surplus is given 50% price. So which means 4 cents, the surplus energy is available at 2 cents. So if you have 2 cent energy, then the urea plant becomes feasible. That is, I know it's very rough findings right now, but it seems it is feasible if the capital cost is somehow subsidized by soft loan or government subsidy. The capital cost is subsidized. And this is a figure for, from hydrogen to ammonia and carbon dioxide. Yes. And another factor for urea is it needs carbon dioxide. And for that, we either have to have a coal thermal plant, or the best, as per the JICA study, the best is to go to a cement factory where the carbon dioxide is produced. And so this is the capital cost that we found out for 1 metric ton of ammonia production. It's about 12 to 13 crore. 13 crore means about 130 million rupees, and which is about $1 million, right? So 130 million rupees is about $1 million. Yeah, about so, $1.1 million. That's the cost. And capital cost for the equipment cost, the hydrogen generation, ammonia generation, hydrogen storage, these are the equipment costs. This is the works, that means installation, civil works, miscellaneous works. This is the services, transportation, labor, and testing and commissioning. So this was just to show you that we're trying to get a real real feeling, a real quotation, and trying to prepare a proposal to the government, to the utility sector, so that they are interested to invest and do a pilot project. You know, we can do a lot of things, policy, let's say, principles. We can talk about principles and theories and all that, but you know, being an engineering company, we'd like to test that principle, test that theory. How does it cost? How much does it cost? And let's say seeing is believing. So let's do it. This is my approach from the beginning. And so we had even prepared a layout and the land.
Can you wrap it up, please?
So finally,
thank you.
Yes. So finally, so what will be the role of the Nepal Electricity Authority in a summary? Now, okay, the hydropower is seasonal. So there is a mismatch in load and generation. That is clear. The storage hydro, solution storage hydro, but is very expensive and does not pay itself by, so multiple benefits must be extracted from other benefits. So power trade is another way. Use of foreign market as buffer storage is risky, no security is required. So that means technologies for use of surplus seasonal energy will stimulate seasonal demand, and that demand will encourage hydropower development. Now that's my logic behind sustainable hydropower development. So NEA is very active in demand stimulation in industries, agriculture, and domestic areas. And seasonal demand is the best fit for NEA. And so therefore NEA engineering are looking for research and development in this area. And hydrogen generation using seasonal surplus, 20 hours a day, is one solution. If hydrogen generation helps urea production, it solves two problems of the nation with one stroke. So similar demand industries such as public electric vehicle charging and battery storage, control nodes such as cold store and irrigation pumps are also interesting. And with better fuel cell efficiencies, hydrogen generation can be, I think, can be another double goal, where hydrogen trucks and buses, they also replace the petroleum and reduce pollution, and at the same time solving the surplus hydrogen, surplus electricity problem. So in this way, I think hydrogen is a very good solution for sustainable hydropower, and NEA and NEA engineering should find ways to invest in the research and development with Kathmandu University also. It's a very good thing that Kathmandu University has started the Green Hydrogen Lab, and we are doing cooperating with KU in that also, and we hope to see for further progress in coming years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Yitendra, for your nice presentation, and especially for the potential feasibility of the using hydrogen in the form of making urea as well. And you have definitely highlighted some cost figures as well, which is very enlightening. And you also mentioned about the surplus energy, the tariff has to go about 40% lower in order to make it more viable. Definitely with surplus energy during the season, I think it has to be worked more in detail, but I think if there's a potential industry that would come in, there should be a cooperation between both the government, private sector, and academia, so we can make a useful product locally within the Nepal, so that we can utilize immense potential that we have. Thank you again. And with that, I'd like to thank you all the participants first very much for being on time. And I think we have some time now for some questions and discussion. So I believe there are questions in the chat boxes, and if some presenters, I mean, there are some specifically delegated to specific presenters. So if you could take up question one at a time. I think we have a very limited time. I don't think we'll be answering all, but would it be possible for the presenter to look at the question relevant and be very short and specific answer? But definitely we'll be capturing all the questions and compiling into report as well. So I leave it to the presenters if they can come up with the take up the questions there.
Pratik ji, I made the answer directly to Q&A.
Okay. Oh, that's good then.
Yes.
If it's so, then I think definitely we had some already questions. There's a question to Ole Gunnar as well. I think, Ole Gunnar, can you respond to that?
Let me see. Which I have to find the question. There's so many.
Okay. Just a second.
Yeah, I can read the question for Ole Gunnar.
Please.
Yeah, sure, Biraj, go ahead.
Can you see one or quantify the effect of climate change or global warming in performance of hydropower, efficiency of turbine, annual energy production? What can you share about these effects in context of Norway?
And that's a number I don't have in my mind, or I don't have the possibility to share, but I know that we have to, knowing that we have to change from fossil fuels to renewables, and knowing that hydropower can give a huge amount of extra energy available, meaning 3 times or 4 times what we have today. I'm sorry, I'm not able to say how many tons of CO2 reduction that will give us, but it's a huge amount.
Okay, there's one other question regarding the infrastructure required for this, tentative cost for that. This is a question from Arun Kumar. So I don't know whether Professor Bruno or Professor Ole, you'd like to take
Bruno is
that
the
up?
best one to answer that question.
Okay, so in terms when you say about infrastructure for R&D or infrastructure in terms of supporting really delivering hydrogen to the customer?
I think the second one.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I was in the UK, there were some talks to actually really develop or implement that hydrogen infrastructure via really this hydrogen refueling station. Some figure at that time I'm talking about actually 10 years or so ago, and the cost was around similar to the broadband infrastructure that the UK had, and it was around in the like below the 10 billion pound at that time to get really a proper hydrogen infrastructure. So it was quite large, but that was based on actually some consulting market analysis, and also on possible usage of hydrogen at a point of source. But it was quite a substantial amount, but it was not actually excessively as high as putting up a broadband infrastructure or internet infrastructure. And there was those figures. Now for Norway, I don't know. I don't have those figures at hand, but I'm sure that I could find them out for you. But we're talking quite a substantial amount of funding, of money to do that. Okay, so yeah, in terms of the infrastructure for R&D, this is also very important. And now we're talking really pretty much, working with the industry to do that. Because that's also is costly, not as costly as the hydrogen infrastructure for customer use, but it is also one of the most important area that one should focus.
Okay, thank you, Professor Bruno. There's another question addressed to Biraj. Have you looked at it? Can you answer that regarding the current development of green hydrogen lab and the challenges you are facing in executing it?
First of all, thank you so much to the wonderful participants in the audience. I'm so happy to receive so many good questions, actually. So a lot of them are there. I will try to answer them in the report that we will be releasing. But I think, yes, there are a lot of challenges to start with. So, but of course, the most important challenge is the realization that this is a very fruitful direction for future, and we need to start here. So that realization is the first challenge. And I think the discussions like this now and future will try to breeze that gap. And of course, the second part is we need the resources, we need the labs, and the hydrogen research is very, very expensive in itself. So we need to start from the shop. So we need to establish the laboratory. Of course, we have the strong connections. We have connections with Norway, we have connections with Korea and Australia and other research centers working. So it's not about the knowledge that can be transferred, but the resources that needs to adapt that knowledge, you know. So we need to establish the labs. We need to start.
I so agree with you. So yeah. So you're so right. It's about really, it's all about the knowledge. Yeah, sorry to interrupt so rudely. So it's also about the infrastructure in terms, in order to get.
Yes, Bruno, Professor Bruno was, I think he was trying to add something. He got muted. Yes, Bruno.
Yeah, sorry. I'm so sorry to interrupt. Please carry on.
Yeah, I know that's the infrastructure for research. That's, I think, the most challenging. We want to start with the very small steps, very careful steps. And then so far the university has given us some fundings. Department of Mechanical Engineering has given us a basic startup research kit to start the facilities, but we want to grow maybe something like what NTNU has. So we need to put the hands together with industries, with the government agencies, grant agencies, maybe some embassies and other funding sources where we can start the knowledge and create the people. I think that's the most important challenge that we are facing. But I know when people realize that this is necessary, we can find money. That's not a problem. So I think I see the bright future. Of course, a lot of works to be done, a lot of things to be arranged, but it is possible. So there are other questions. Professor Maske has put up a few questions and others have also put questions, but I think this was the best question that I should answer, and rest question I will try to put up in the report that will be sent.
Thank you, Biraj.
May I comment a little bit?
Yes, Professor.
So I think the hydropower industry should cooperate with Kathmandu University and then invest some money on that, and it should be a very basis for especially private sector hydropower companies, because small scale power plants they are having problems right now, so they should be interested.
Okay, thank you for that comment, Professor Panthi. So I think I know there are some more questions, and definitely people are very curious about this new technology, the prices, the commercial viability, and especially in the context of using it in Nepal. I know that it has been more viable now in the European market, but coming to Asia and a developing country where we have some lacking infrastructure and reliability of supplies. So we do have challenges in that. I think this will be ongoing discussion. Yes, Biraj, you want to say something?
I just want to put one remarks, because we should not forget from where we started, from Green Hydrogen Lab. I can see Professor Yong-Hoo Lee from Korea. He was the one who actually kicked us to investigate towards hydrogen, and he actually made us feel that hydrogen could be the new future for Nepal and this region. So if we have, I know we have very lost a few seconds of time, but may I request the moderator to give him 30 seconds to 1 minute to put his remarks, because I should acknowledge, because it was for the first time he made me realize that yes, Nepal can start the hydrogen technology, and then we started the discussion, and all these activities, what were happening, it originated from one meeting with Professor Lee back in Korea. So if 30 seconds to 1 minute, Professor Lee, can you?
Sure. Professor Lee, are you online? If you could put your remarks, suggestion in 1 minute, that I will appreciate that. Sorry, looks like he is not online. Anyway, thank you for mentioning that on his behalf. But anyways, I think because of consideration of time, I think we'll have to limit our discussions here. But as I said, all the questions that have been put up in the chat boxes will be taken care by the team and will be compiled into a report and circulated. So with that note, I'd like to thank you again for the participants who have been very actively putting up the question and queries to our presenters. So as we move forward now, I think we have now some special guests and speakers. First, we have a special guest speaker from Royal Norwegian Embassy, Mr. Jan Erik, who is an energy counselor here in Kathmandu. So I'd like to hand over the mic to Jan. Mr. Jan?
Okay, thank you. Namaste. Can you see me? Okay, start video. Okay. Allow.
Yet.
You can hear me, right?
Yes, I can hear you. Maybe.
But the
can you switch on your video?
Video is not working. I did switch it on, but it's not working.
Okay, but anyway,
not that important. But
yeah. All right.
Anyway, thank you so much for inviting me to participate in this very interesting online conference. I'm very new to Nepal at this time around. I came about 2 weeks ago, and I spent most of the time confined in a quarantine. So I haven't really been able to really explore the Hydro Lab, the Kathmandu University, or any other settings in Nepal this time around. But my first visit was back in 1982, and that was the first time I experienced load shedding anywhere in the world. So I understand that Nepal has really progressed, quite significantly on this one. And over the last few days, we have experienced a few sort of short load sheddings, but not very serious. As you may know, as some of you know, and has been alluded to by Professor Thapa in the beginning, Norway has for many, many years been quite active in supporting hydropower development in Nepal. And some of my previous visit back in the 1980s, I was also able to meet with Odd Hoftun, and I'm quite aware of some of the fantastic work that was done by the early pioneers in Norway. But I'm not an engineer. I'm from the Agriculture University, so this is like a new field for me, but quite interesting. As you know, the topics and the sectors the embassy is providing support is mostly on education, governance, but I think where you know us is the... No, the Professor Lee is coming on board. Hello?
I think we should continue with yours.
Okay, thank you. So, the sectors we have been providing support to for a long time is mostly dealing with education as well as with good governance. And energy has been a long-standing sector where Norway has provided substantial support to Nepal over many, many, many years. And I'm quite aware of the very strong collaboration between NTNU, the professors at NTNU, and various professors and academics and engineers, etc., in Nepal. And I'm very happy to be able to see some of them live today. I've just seen some emails from some of them before. Some of the topics or some of the presentations were quite technical, and I must admit that I lost out some of them. But I do understand, the prospects and of hydrogen in Nepal in the years to come, and it's very important for a university, for an academic institution to really start to prepare for themselves for that potential future. But on the other hand, the consumption of energy in Nepal per capita is still extremely low. I saw some figures. That's about 177 kilowatt hours per annum, and Norway has a per capita consumption of about 23,000 kilowatt hours per annum. And as Nepal is striving to become a more low middle income country, obviously there's need to shift, from biomass energy towards electricity in terms of a lot of the household cores as well. So you have a lot of challenges also for that to happen. So far, the embassy, we are providing support to Energize Nepal, which is obviously hosted by Kathmandu University, and the Hydro Lab is a very important part of that. And I'm looking forward to continuous discussion and dialogue, also regarding the future collaboration. I don't think I will say much more, but this was very interesting. I learned a lot, and I'm really looking forward to my stay in Nepal over the next 3 years. So thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, Jan, for a very elaborated address despite being in quarantine. I think definitely the technology has definitely helped, though you have been here in Nepal before, but currently, since you haven't been able to go out, but we really appreciate your address to us. Definitely Nepal-Norway in terms of cooperation, especially in the hydropower sector, has been ongoing, from building hydropower in terms of creating industries, institutions like Hydro Lab, where I had been also a part of it, to BPC and all the fabrication company, and there's so more and much more, and also now establishing also KU together with the NTNU collaboration in moving on from turbine technology to green hydrogen lab. This is amazing. So we look forward to continued support from the Royal Norwegian Embassy as we go forward, and especially bringing technology transfer into a partnership, global partnership between Norway and Nepal. Thank you so much again. And with that note, I think I move on to our next special address from NTNU, Rita Kumar, who is a special advisor, senior advisor at International Relations Office at NTNU. Please, Ms. Rita, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Prateek. Thank you very much. Dear NTNU alumni, can you hear me all?
Yes, that's perfect.
Board members, NTNU professors and friends. First of all, I would like to thank you all for such an interesting webinar presentations and for thought-provoking presentations today. I'm actually a layman in this field. I'm not a technology professor or technology person. I'm an administrative person, but I've been working with many of you for many years. It has been very interesting to see and learn more about hydrogen potential, how you are setting it on the agenda, and that it can be an energy source for the future scenario. It was interesting to learn what financial benefits it can bring with this new technology, and then how it can change the environmental issues also. I understand that Nepal has got a huge potential for it, and I hope that this seminar will take you in the right direction and right path and set it on the agenda. Thank you also to Alumni Nepal Board, who has taken this opportunity to arrange a wonderful series of seminar on a very relevant topic, not only for Nepal, but for a wider audience. And that's, you can call it a negative, but I will call it a positive point for us, that we are able to join on this seminar like this, because when we established the alumni, we did not think about such things. But it's so good to have such a wider audience. I registered that there have been 323 participants, not only professors, but also students from both the universities and people sitting in Bombay, Mumbai and UK, not to mention only Nepal and Norway. As a representative of NTNU Alumni Observer on the board of NTNU Alumni Nepal, I'm very much impressed by the webinar series that you people have arranged. There has been one earlier. You arranged one in medicine also about 3 months back. And I would like to say that both these sectors are very important for cooperation for NTNU, both energy and medicine. I'm also very proud of the fact that Alumni Nepal leads the alumni work by setting a very good example with these initiatives. These are just the right steps we need in order to achieve the goals in our international action plan and also our alumni network. So by arranging these series, you have actually shown a way, one of the good practices, to other alumni also, alumni chapters, and we would like to promote it with them. And I've also seen that there are some people from China who have been participating today. And I really hope that you carry this on as a good example. And we are also looking forward to meet you in the Alumni Summit, which will be actually held quite soon in the second week of October. And also to focus on cross-sectoral issues for both universities, industries, and represented authorities. That I think is very, very, very important, as you have done. And I would also like to say that we really look forward to this cooperation with Nepal. One of our professors already mentioned it in his last slide, that he'll be very happy to collaborate further on these issues. And thanks a lot also to all the participants and to Narayan and his team who have done this excellent work. And I would also like to say a few words to you, Pratik. Excellent work as a moderator today. I was very much impressed. A lot of questions, but you people are managing well and you will take care of it. I know that. And I would also like to thank Jan Erik from the Norwegian Embassy in Nepal. Though you have joined only 2 weeks back, it was very nice to see you on this webinar. And I hope that you can collaborate with our team, our alumni team in Nepal. I would leave the, the details to you, but I hope that you can meet each other at least once to twice a year and update each other on the work you are doing. It'll be very motivating for our team in Nepal if the embassy can also, focus on their work, inform each other what is happening in the field. That'd be really good for both the alumni group and also for the embassy, I think, and for our professors. So thank you once again, everybody who has participated to make it a wonderful series of seminar, and I look forward to attending more. And I would also like to thank you from my team, Tonya and Cecil, who have not been able to join, but they send their regards today. Thank you for me.
Thank you, Rita Kumar, and thank you very much for your appreciation for our NTNU alumni team here in Nepal for arranging all this, and definitely for all your positive remarks to the whole seminar. Thank you with that. And with that note, I move on now to our next special address by Mr. Dambar Bahadur Nepali, who is, we know him as a Chilime man, and where he had worked his life through in the Nepal Electricity Authority, and was very taken up the pride of building Chilime within domestic resources. And having all that experience of the industry at NEA, now he has moved on to the academia, where he's translating all his practical knowledges into the academia. Normally, it has been the reverse, where people graduate to having academic degree and go to industries. But here we have an example where a person from industry having intense experience going back to academia. And so now with that word, I leave it to Mr. Dambar Bahadur Nepali, who is the Dean School of Engineering at Kathmandu University. So the mic is yours, Mr. Dambar Bahadur Nepali.
Okay, thank you very much, Pratik Ji. You have explained so much about me. Thank you once again. Actually, this webinar is managed by TTL, or say Green Hydrogen Lab, and I'm happy, very happy that Professor Dr. Bhola Thapa had been instrumental and very good advisor for asking our Dr. Biraj for arranging all these things. And also this alumni of NTNU, definitely they have participated. Mostly they have presented so well, and all the technical sessions as well as generation of hydrogen from hydropower. Especially I'm very curious and also fascinated to see how the hydropower is used for hydrogen. As everyone already said, that small projects also can, when they don't have market for exporting the hydropower, at that time they can generate hydrogen so that they can use it. So all the participants, I think they might have enjoyed, and they have given in the chat box also thanking all the presenters. And Pola Thapa already given the welcome address as opening remarks, and Krishna Prasad Acharya giving as the president of IPP. He had clearly said that what is the difficulties producing hydropower in Nepal, and generally government didn't take so much serious about it. That's true also. And Krishnakant Panthi, professor of NTNU, definitely highlighted so much about underground as well as hydropower. That's great. And Professor Ole Gunnar definitely is our professor also, because every time, whenever we arrange something, he is the one who will always encourage us to go ahead with whatever program we do have. So Biraj Singh Thapa had a big dream about how hydropower can be used for hydrogen, using contributing for the greenhouse, right? So I mean green, eradicating the pollutions and all these things. That is very important, and definitely doing under his leadership, our research assistants are also very much energetic doing on that. And KU feel proud to have all those initiator, leader, and also researcher doing something great. And within shortest possible time, they are doing much more than what I could expect from them. And also our Professor Bruno Pollet has given us how the Norway government is developing the hydropower, and he has given clear picture about what is needed to be done in the technical aspect and in potential of use of hydrogen in Norway, and what is the potential exporting and also income generating, which our Biraj also said the same thing, that definitely when we generate hydro power and convert it into hydrogen, how much this Nepal can bring money up from outside. That is really a very good part of it. So now Hitendra also give us some real picture. Definitely is our student for the research work in doctorate. I feel proud to work with him in Chile, just like Pratik Pradhan already said that, you know, we were using, and he's a dynamic person. He has performed very well also in Chile as well as now in the company. So actually these are the very wonderful things to say that. And also Professor Young, of course, we could not see you, but we could hear you. Unfortunately, because of this lockdown period and also, you know, quarantine period, still you are here. And most welcome to you here in Nepal and also in Kathmandu. Sometimes I'm sure that you will be visiting Kathmandu University, and of course that your contribution will be regarding the agriculture, that we feel proud and we are waiting for you also. And Rita Kumar, you have given such a brief, wonderful notes about all the gathering and all the participants and all the presenters which were there. So that is really admirable. Anyway, the last conclusion of mine is to develop this hydro to hydrogen. We are always curious to do it. Our researchers are always encouraged to do it. I am sure that because of Biraj and Professor Bhola, he will be landing somewhere which will be generating hydrogen using hydropower, and it will do something really, do something and create something from Kathmandu University with his research work. So this is this webinar sharing the information and development of use of production of hydrogen and use of hydropower, generate the hydropower using the hydropower energy. So thank you very much. Thank you all of you. And also Pratik, you have conducted so well this timely, in making it short and timely presentation. That's very good. And thank you once again. And thank you, our Bhola sir, that your leadership will definitely will encourage all of us. And every week we have meeting like this, and that's wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you very much, Dambar sir, for all your words and your appreciation for all of us. And also, we look forward definitely your experiences from the industry at KU and the academia, where we can really have a good tie-up between the academia and industry that is really required. So that will be very helpful, and we look forward to it. And with that note, I think we have come to the close of this session, and I hope I have done justice to the time and be able to come to on time to finish it. So I just have one more saying that before, I think I'd like to thank you once again for all the participants from all over the world, internationally. It may be good night somewhere, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And I'll compile all to namaste from my end. And thank you for being very attentive. And thank you for the presenters who have done excellent work in presenting and being very good at finishing on time. So it's excellent. And definitely, as I said, we haven't been able to take up all the questions, but we'll definitely take one by one and compile it and put in the report. With that note, I'd like to say thank you on my behalf from this, and I look forward for this cooperation and also looking forward for using energy into hydrogen, also to urea. So with that note, I'll now hand over the mic to Mr. Naveen Basnet, who is the Vice President at the NTNU Alumni. So he will take off from here and try to finish on time at 4:30. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pratik sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, yes. Where at first, I'd like to thank all the panelists for their insightful presentations in their respective topics in and around hydropower to hydrogen in Nepal, opportunities, challenges, and way forward. I'd also like to thank the representatives from NTNU Alumni Central, Kathmandu University, Norwegian Embassy, and Nepal for their remarks on this webinar. On behalf of the board, I'd also like to thank all the researchers and the technical team at Green Hydrogen Lab, Kathmandu University. I'd also like to thank Nepal Research and Education Network, NREN, for providing us this Zoom platform, and also thank the supercomputer unit and Dr. Rajendra Adhikari for their technical support, which was very instrumental in completing this webinar in this scale. Last but not the least, I'd like to thank all the participants who participated with us via Zoom platform and also watched us live in Facebook pages. With these remarks, I would like to officially end this webinar on hydropower to hydrogen in Nepal, opportunities, challenges, and way forward, organized by NTNU Alumni Nepal in association with Green Hydrogen Lab, Kathmandu University. We hope to see you all in the next webinar. Thank you and namaste.